Yu is a young and kind boy who suffered from a tough childhood. His parents didn't treat him with love and care like most parents do. They compared him to a demon and constantly verbally abused him. Sadly, the verbal abuse quickly escalated to physical abuse, and at one point, Yu's father even tried to kill him. Though he managed to survive, he lost his parents in the process. Afterward, Yu was taken to an orphanage where he met the director who introduced him to Mika and other kids. Although they were welcoming and kind, Yu was still traumatized by his past experiences and couldn't bring himself to trust anyone. He believed that he didn't need a family since he already had one and suffered terribly from it. Despite Yu's reluctance to socialize, the other kids in the orphanage made their best efforts to befriend him and help him whenever he needed it. Eventually, Yu began to open up and started to see them as his new family. However, their happy lives were soon disrupted by a deadly virus that killed everyone who was 13 years old or older. Yu and the other young kids were the only ones who survived, but their safety didn't last long. Vampires took advantage of the situation and captured the kids to raise them as livestock. The orphanage was no exception, and they were all transported to a subterranean city. Now, 4 years later, Yu and the other kids are forced to donate their blood every day. But he's sick and tired of living on this human farm. He wants to escape. While venting to Mika, they suddenly witness two vampires cruelly stepping on and kicking a couple of young kids who had been innocently drawing on the floor. Yu's heart ached at the sight, and he couldn't bear to see the children suffer. Driven by anger and courage, he charged at the vampires to protect the kids. However, Yu was just a 12-year-old boy, and he was no match for the powerful, grown-up vampires. One of them grabbed Yu and dangled him over the edge of the walkway, threatening to drop him. Mika, terrified of losing his friend, frantically tried to apologize for Yu's actions, but the vampires paid him no heed. Just when all seemed lost, Farid, a noble vampire, appeared and stopped the others from hurting Yu. Mika greeted Farid with a smile, and the noble vampire invited him to his mansion that night. Mika agreed, leaving Yu puzzled about his friend's connection to the vampire noble. That evening, as Yu lay on the rooftop, one of the orphans called him in for dinner. Inside, the kids were overjoyed to be eating curry, and the one cooking told them to thank Mika for providing it. Yu noticed Mika's absence and inquired about it, only to learn that he had gone to Farid's mansion. He realized that Mika must have traded his blood for the ingredients to make the curry, and the thought left him unable to enjoy the meal. When Mika returned home later that night, Yu confronted him. Excitedly, Mika revealed that he had stolen a map and a gun from Farid's mansion, giving them a chance to escape this prison. Filled with hope, they woke up the other kids and made their way through the underground city toward freedom. Just as they were about to reach the exit, Farid emerged, happily explaining that he had allowed them to explore his mansion and find an escape route only to cruelly dash their hopes at the last moment. He then proceeded to mercilessly kill the children one by one, until only Mika and Yu remained. Determined to save his friend, Mika grabbed the gun and attacked Farid, only to be impaled by the vampire's hand. Mika told Yu to run, but instead, Yu picked up the gun and shot Farid in the head. As Mika collapsed in his pool of precious blood, Yu desperately tried to drag him to safety, but Mika pushed him away, urging him to leave while he still could. With tears streaming down his face and covered in Mika's blood, Yu fled the underground city. When he finally emerged, he encountered Gurren and his team from the Moon Demon Company, a human military group fighting against the vampires. Gurren labeled Yu as the hidden weapon from the Hayakuya orphanage and offered him a chance to fight alongside them. Heartbroken and full of rage, Yu clung to Gurren, vowing to become their weapon and destroy every vampire in existence in memory of his lost family. 4 years had passed since Yu lost his family to the vampires, and his heart had grown cold and angry. He was afraid to make new friends, fearing he might lose them too. Gurren, who had taken Yu in, placed him in a military school but hadn't spoken to him since. Desperate for attention, Yu tried to find a way to get suspended, hoping Gurren would call him to fight. Out of the blue, Shinoa, Yu's classmate, poked him and told him he needed to behave. She delivered a message from Gurren. Yu wouldn't be allowed to join the army until he made a friend. After class, Shinoa gave Yu a note from Gurren, which irritated him. As he left, Shinoa followed him, explaining that she needed to write a report on his behavior. Suddenly, they heard a commotion and found their classmate Yoichi being bullied. Yu initially ignored the situation, but when the bully called Yoichi livestock, he couldn't help but remember the vampire's cruel taunts. Shinoa warned him that Gurren wouldn't accept him if he attacked civilians. As a result, he gets beaten up and becomes Bullied Kid number 2. While running errands for the bullies, Yoichi shared his reason for joining military school. He wanted to avenge his sister, who was killed by a vampire while protecting him. You bluntly told Yoichi he was too weak to join the army, which nearly brought Yoichi to tears. An explosion suddenly rocked a nearby building, and sirens blared a warning about an escaped vampire. Shinoa told the boys to find safety while she contacted the Moon Demon Company. You made up his mind to prove his worth to Guren. His heart pounding with anticipation and fear, he sprinted back into the school. Picking up his sword, he entered a classroom, where he found the vampire about to sink her fangs into a student. You intervened just in time, and the vampire shifted her attention to you, deciding to drink his blood instead. The vampire displays her incredible agility and strength, evading Yu's sword strikes and attacking ferociously with her razor-sharp nails. As the vampire lunged toward the girl she had initially targeted, Yoichi appeared out of nowhere, driven by his newfound courage. He tackled the vampire, distracting her and giving you a brief opening to attack. The vampire, angered by the interruption, lashed out at Yoichi, but you intercepted her with his sword. The vampire grabbed you by the throat and leaped out of a window with him. In midair, you managed to stab her in the abdomen, causing her to howl in pain. The vampire, though weakened, mocked you, saying she would drink his blood to regain her strength before the Moon Demon Company could arrive. Just as she prepared to do so, Guren appeared, plunging his cursed blade into her heart and ending her life. When you asked Guren to let him into the company already, Guren replies that he hates brats who do not understand teamwork and refuses. Just then, Yoichi sees you. Yoichi hugs you, crying about how worried he was, but he knocks you out. Shinoa points out that Guren will now have to keep his promise since you managed to make a friend after all, much to Guren's shock. While unconscious from the battle, you dreamt of his family from the orphanage. Mika told him they were glad he made a friend because living for revenge was too painful. His family could finally stop worrying about him. As they walk away, Yu tells them not to go and he cries out Mika's name. He reaches his arm out and wakes up in a hospital bed, with Yaochai by his side. Shinoa informed them that the army had approved of both their actions, and they were now accepted into the Moon Demon Company. After recovering, Yu was ready to take the next step as a member of the Moon Demon Company. Guren, recognizing his growth, decided it was time to give him his own curse gear, a powerful weapon possessed by a demon. Yu, Yaochai, and another kid followed Guren to the ceremonial room where they would receive his curse gear. As they walked, Guren explained the importance of the contract ceremony. Each curse gear contained one of the strongest demons sealed within, and they would need to find a way to be accepted by this demon in order to draw out the weapon's true power. As the ceremony began, Yu reached out and drew forth a sword with a green blade. In a trance-like state, Yu finds himself walking through a realm filled with clouds. The atmosphere is serene, but something feels off. He hears his name being called and turns to see Mika. Confused and suspicious, Yu demands that the demon stop imitating his family. Mika comments that he thought touching on Yu's most vulnerable part would affect him, but he's surprised to see that Yu isn't shaken. Yu commands the demon to give up and grant him the power he seeks. Black smoke pours out of Mika, who collapses, and a formless black mass rises in his place. The demon reveals itself. The demon inquires why Yu desires power so intensely. Yu responds that it's for revenge and because he lost his family. The demon claims it can give him limitless power for revenge, but suddenly, another orphan's voice interrupts, saying that it isn't enough. Yu turns to see the lifeless bodies of his orphanage family lying on the ground. The children ask Yu if he's going to abandon them again and question whether it's fair that he's the only one who gets to make friends and live happily. But Yu asserts that he hasn't forgotten about them. He screams at the demon to stop and demands the power to protect everything that matters to him. The demon agrees to follow Yu as long as his heart remains strong, but warns that it will take over his body if it senses any weakness. The demon introduces itself as a Shiramaru and reveals that there's something inside Yu that is no longer human, likely due to experimentation. A Shiramaru advises Yu not to trust humans, as they can be more terrifying than demons or vampires. Yu awakens from the trance, holding the demon's sword. As Yu observes his peers, he realizes that Kimazuki has successfully completed his trial, but Yoichi is still fighting with his demon. Suddenly, a loud blast erupts, and a cloud of dust fills the air. Guren explains that Yoichi has failed, and the demon is now possessing him. They see Yoichi, now transformed with sharp fingernails, pointed teeth, small horns, markings under his eyes, and slit pupils. Complaining about humans being a nuisance, he manifests a large green bow. Guren orders Yu and Kimazuki to kill him, but Yu disagrees, knocking the bow from Yoichi's hands. Guren reminds Yu that the demon is inside Yoichi, not the weapon. Meanwhile, Yoichi relives a painful memory of his sister telling him to stay hidden under the bed while she sacrifices herself to keep him alive. Tired of hiding, He declares that he wants the power to protect his friends and destroy his enemies. At that moment, he manages to conquer the demon and pass the trial. Overcome with emotion, Yoichi casts aside the bow and runs to Yu, hugging him tightly. Guren acknowledges Yoichi's talent, but notes that guilt has been sapping his will to live. He encourages Yoichi to let go of revenge and focus on living to protect his friends. Turning to Yu, Guren tells him to forget about his old family and embrace this new one, as reveals they will form a squad led by Shino. With all three boys having acquired their cursed gears and demonstrating teamwork, Guren decides to send them tomorrow to the front line to fight the vampires who are plotting to retake the city of Shinjuku. The next day, as the cargo truck nears the battlefield, the driver announces that they will arrive in just 15 minutes. The group braces themselves for the imminent fight. Shinoa, however, reveals that they are currently too weak to be of any real use on the front lines. In an effort to bolster their strength, she introduces them to a set of magic pills. Shinoa explains that these pills will enhance their synchronization with their demons, amplifying their abilities. Taking one pill increases a user's strength by 1.5 times, while 2 pills double it. However, she warns them that if they take 3 pills, their internal organs will rupture, causing severe harm or even death. Each pill lasts for 15 minutes, but leaves the user extremely vulnerable once its effects wear off. Yu questions Shinoa about whether this is the true way to harness the power of the cursed gear. Shinoa admits that mastering cursed gear requires dedicated training. Unfortunately, they are short on time, and this risky strategy is their best chance at making a difference in the upcoming battle. Upon arriving at their destination, the group finds Guren cornered and defenseless, facing a menacing vampire. Shinoa quickly orders her squad to take the pills to boost their strength, rescue Guren, and then retreat. The team follows her command, eager to save their leader. As they move closer, the situation takes a turn for the worse when Guren gets stabbed by the vampire. Enraged by the sight, Yu shouts at the vampire to get away from Guren. He charges toward the enemy, and with determination, he thrusts his cursed gear through the vampire's chest. The two lock eyes, and Yu's expression suddenly shifts from anger to shock. His eyes widen in disbelief. Yu is frozen with shock when he realizes he has just stabbed Mika, his long-lost childhood friend. Suddenly, Guren orders Yu to use the blade curse and kill Mika, but Yu can't bring himself to obey. Guren then tries to attack Mika himself, but Mika skillfully dodges the blow. Guren punches Yu for his disobedience, but Yu apologizes and explains his connection to Mika. Tears streaming down his face, Yu feels immense guilt for having abandoned Mika in the past. Meanwhile, Mika and Farid, a vampire, discuss what to do with Yu as more noble vampires arrive on the scene. Seeing the danger, Guren orders everyone to retreat, but Yu's escape is blocked by Farid. Farid taunts Yu, asking if he wants to play a game, which triggers Yu's painful memories of the vampire killing his family. In a fit of rage, Yu attacks Farid, but is unsuccessful in defeating him. As the situation becomes more dire, Mika offers to help Yu escape the vampires, urging him to leave everything behind. Confused, Yu questions why Mika is with Farid, the one who killed their family. Mika dismisses Yu's concerns and carries him in his arms, explaining that humans are exploiting Yu for their own purposes. Despite Mika's pleas, Yu refuses to abandon his friends. However, when Yu looks back at his friends, he sees Shinoa crying as she is bitten on the neck by a vampire. Yu's emotional pain triggers a transformation within him. His left eye turns red and blood runs down his face as he enters a trance-like state. In this trance, Yu encounters Asuramaru on a golden plane. He suspects she's trying to possess him, but she denies it, explaining that she's afraid of the monster inside him, which seems like a god bringing judgment to the world. In this mystical vision, Yu sees 7 massive trumpets and angels emerging from radiant beams of light. Asuramaru warns him that it's too late, and the non-human part of him is about to go wild. Back in reality, Yu starts transforming, with one eye turning completely black and a dripping, branch-like structure growing from his shoulder. Mika watches in horror as the transformation confirms his worst fears about humans. He tries to talk to Yu, but Yu only attacks him, destroying a gas station in the process. Crowley, a powerful vampire who has bitten Shinoa, approaches Yu. Yu swings his sword at Crowley with immense strength, destroying several buildings and leaving a massive crater in his wake. The destruction is immense, and onlookers can't help but be amazed and terrified at the sheer power Yu now wields. Crowley is initially unfazed by Yu's attacks but quickly realizes the danger he is in. Yu, now consumed by rage, summons his cursed gear and uses it to engulf Crowley in a towering pillar of blackness. At the top of the building-sized column, A halo of light forms and then widens, descending down the structure. As the light reaches the bottom, it envelops the entire dark mass, causing it to shimmer and then explode with incredible force. After the battle, Yu notices Shinoa and moves toward her, consumed by a desire to annihilate all sinners. As he attacks her, Mika jumps in front, sacrificing himself to protect Yu from further heartache. Guren shouts to Shinoa that she can still save Yu from his current state. Desperate, she leaps toward him and hugs him, begging him to return to normal. Yu finally snaps out of his transformed state, coughing up blood before collapsing to the ground. In a tearful embrace, Shinoa clings to Yu, while Mika curses the world of men. At the heart of a vast crater, Farid's cold fingers grip Guren's neck, his laughter echoes, proclaiming the monster his secret weapon. Futile, Farid sneers, but Guren's eyes gleam with triumph. A mere delay for the vampires was their goal. From a distance, Shinya Haraga's keen eye catches Farid's attention. His finger pulls the trigger of Byakumaru, a weapon not even a Gundam could match. 3 ethereal white tigers, wreathed in blue fire, leap forward to obey their master's command. "Don't hit Guren," he commands, perhaps mistaking him for a Pokémon that needed catching. Farid's dance with death leaves him untouched but for a mere scratch. A warning well heeded, or the blow might have been fatal. Then, from the shadows, human warriors emerge. Kirito Haragi strides forward, his contempt for Guren as cold as the tip of his sword. "You've done well, for a mere background character," he says, preparing to lead. His orders ring clear: seize the nobles, show the vampires the wrath of the Haragi, the humans, and the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. With a wave of his hand, the attack commences. Shinoa remembers the previous battle and Yuichiro's transformation as she walks underground. She approaches a restricted area guarded by soldiers. Shinoa reveals her identity as a member of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army's Vampire Extermination Unit. The soldiers mention it's a lab where they experiment on captured vampires. To gain access, Shinoa shows her family crest on a pocket watch, which allows her passage. She enters a laboratory filled with scientists examining vials of blood. Guren is in an office overseeing them. Shinoa confronts Guren, asking about Yu's transformation and the special drug he gave him. Guren teases her emotions and avoids giving a clear answer. He questions how humans can survive in a world with horsemen and vampires, and he mentions Shinoa's sister's sacrifices for the cursed gear. Shinoa blushes when asked if she has a crush on Yu. Guren orders her to leave and says the drug will wear off in 5 days, and Yu will wake up. Shinoa sits by Yu's hospital bed, worried and hoping he wakes up soon. She holds his hand but denies having a crush on him. In a flashback, Michaela is angry at humans during a battle. Farid tries to calm him, but Mika wants to save Yu. Farid thinks humans' desires are disgusting and can't rescue Yu now. Shinoa hugs Yu, and Mika gets angry. Farid asks if Mika hates humans, but Mika tells him to be quiet. Farid wonders what Mika will become, but they have to leave. Farid touches Mika's shoulder, and Mika yells at him to let go. Farid grabs Mika's neck, and Mika looks back at Yu. Currently, Mika is inside a transparent container, naked and with tears in his eyes. An electronic voice announces that the curse detoxification is done, and the container opens, releasing steam. Mika wakes up and wipes his tears, realizing he hasn't cried since he became a vampire. Mika, Lacus, and Rene get dressed. Lacus complains about their difficult situation because of a human. He asks Mika about his injury since he was hurt the worst. Mika ignores him, and Lacus wonders why Mika is ignoring him again. Rene asks about the monster they encountered. Lacus explains that the Progenitor Council is concerned about the humans studying a forbidden enchantment called Seraph of the End. The attack on Shinjuku was supposed to retrieve something related to it, but they don't know if they succeeded because Lord Farid was in command, and they can't predict his actions. Lacus suspects that Mika and the monster have a connection, and that might be why Mika is Queen Kroll's favorite. They want to know who Mika truly is, even if he doesn't answer. Mika stops ignoring Lacus and Rene, sadly admitting he's just an ugly vampire, which confuses Lacus. An announcement calls Mika to the royal audience chamber, where third progenitor Krull Teeps wants to see him. Lacus jokes that the queen is summoning her pet Mika, and Mika leaves. On another night, Yu wakes up in his hospital bed with his wounds healed. Yoichi, who was sleeping nearby, cheers that Yu is awake. Yu asks what happened, and Yoichi hugs him, saying he'll inform everyone. Yu quickly checks if everyone is okay, but Yoichi assures him that he was the only one seriously injured and in a coma for 7 days. After Yoichi leaves, Yu is relieved that everyone is okay. He wonders if Mika being alive was real or just a dream and becomes so happy that he starts crying. Shinoa comes in and jokingly calls him a crybaby, but she reassures him that it's okay to cry when he found out his family is still alive. She's glad he's awake and sits beside him. Yu asks Shinoa what happened and admits he can't remember. She playfully teases him, saying he claimed to feel sleepy and fell asleep in the middle of the battlefield. Shinoa then explains that Yu suddenly lost consciousness and their units were almost defeated. Fortunately, the main unit led by Kirito and Shinya Hiragi arrived in time to support them. They managed to kill many normal vampires but couldn't defeat the nobles. Some vampires were captured, but many escaped. Yu wants to know about Mika, whether he is a friend or foe. He's just happy as long as Mika is alive. Shinoa tells him that Mika was taken by the vampires, and he thanks her. She orders him not to leave the hospital and go after the vampires alone, and he agrees. In a flashback, after a battle, the squad retreats to a temporary base, leaving Shinoa alone on her knees. She thinks about Yu, Mika, and their family. Yu interrupts her thoughts, thanking her for worrying about him. Yu notices a bandage on Shinoa's neck and leans closer to see it. Shinoa blushes but explains that vampires drank her blood. Mitsuba enters the room and gets angry, thinking something else is happening between Yu and Shinoa, but it was just a misunderstanding. And Mitsuba has a bite on her neck too, which Yu asks about. The light turns on, and Kimazuki tells Mitsuba to be quiet in the hospital. Yoichi enters with him. Mitsuba yells at Kimazuki, but he ignores her and checks on Yu, who seems fine. Yu thanks him, but Kimazuki denies being worried. Shinoa teases Kimazuki for caring about Yu earlier, making him blush and deny it. Yoichi claims it's true. Yu apologizes for worrying everyone but is glad they are all alive. Shinoa squad agrees he still needs medical attention. Yoichi insists Yu was a good guy from the start. They decide to take a break until Yu fully recovers and promise not to rush to save Mika. Kimazuki leaves to get drinks, and Shinoa teases him about caring for his sister. Yoichi goes with him. Shinoa teases Mitsuba, but she points out that Shinoa isn't doing anything, claiming it's okay because she's the squad leader. In the royal audience chamber, Queen Krulteeps looks at Mika, who sits before her. Lacus and Rene sit on opposite ends of a bench in Sanguinum. Guren Ikano's squad eats in a cafeteria without Guren present, surrounded by soldiers. Crowley Usford sits in a chair, drinking blood from a wine glass. Chessbell and Hornskull play chess on the floor. Shinya Hiragi reads a book by a lamplight. Kirito Hiragi looks through a window in his office at the ruined Shinjuku. Papers for the Seraph of the End project with an analysis report lie on a desk next to a sword. Shinoa and Mitsuba leave Yu's room. Yu stands up, closes a window, and wonders how none of his friends died, and Mika is still alive. He thinks about Mika and feels like he can do anything as long as Mika is alive. Meanwhile, Mika gazes at the moon from underground in Sanguinum, thinking about Yu. Yu and Mika both promise themselves to rescue each other. Guren signs a report in English about the battle. He stops the record player and closes it. On the surface, Farid Bathory is amused that his and his partner's plans are going smoothly. He notes that humans' desires are getting out of control, and vampires are acting arrogantly. He hands over research data to his partner. His partner seems serious, and as Farid tries to say something, the rooftop door closes, and his partner leaves. Shinoa and Guren have a practice fight in an abandoned area. Guren teases Shinoa about not being able to kill him despite him killing her older sister, Maharu. Shinoa asks Guren about using Yu and if it's related to Maharu. Guren reveals that Maharu is within him, but he's not possessed by her. He avoids giving further answers and leaves Shinoa frustrated. Later, Shinoa finds Yu in the library. He's tired and looking at books. Shinoa tells him to rest, but he insists he's fine. She playfully teases him about looking at inappropriate stuff. They discuss turning humans into vampires, and Shinoa asks if Yu wants to turn Mika back into a human. Yu says he's just happy Mika is alive and revenge isn't his focus now. Shinoa admits she doesn't know how to turn vampires back into humans and notes that Yu has matured. A voice over the intercom calls Yu to the first office, and Shinoa warns him about the powerful Hiragi family. She boasts about her high rank within the family. Outside the library, Yu meets Guren, who tells him a story and claims ownership over him. Guren warns Yu not to be too friendly with the Hiragi family. Yu ignores him and heads to the first office, with Guren following and asserting his authority. Mitsuba joins Yu in an elevator and talks about her promotion, feeling unworthy because of her family background. Yu comforts her and thanks her for believing in him. He goes up to meet the Hiragas, while Mitsuba meets Shinoa and tells her about her promotion as well. As Yu enters a dark room, a spotlight reveals a vampire attacking him. He defeats the vampire with one swing of his sword. Kirito, Shinya, and AI are in the room with him. Kirito tests Yu's swordsmanship and activates his curse unexpectedly. Yu tries to attack from behind, but AI blocks him. Then Shinya tests Yu's combat skills with long-range attacks, and Shinya wins. He explains that Yu wasn't properly trained for such combat. Shinya reveals that both he and Yu are suspected of being vampire spies. Yu denies being a spy, but Kirito orders him to go to another room, and AI leads him there. In another room, Yu's friends Yoichi and Shiho are tied to chairs behind a window. Kirito threatens them to get the truth from Yu. Kirito questions Yu about his past and accuses him of being an experiment for the Hyakuya sect. Yu's friends are tortured while Kirito demands answers. Yu remembers his childhood and the questions he doesn't have answers to. Kirito wants Yu to work for him, but Yu demands his friend's release first. After some tough moments, Kirito dismisses Yu, and Shinya gives his opinion. Outside, Shinoa, Mitsuba, and Yu's friends wait for him. Yu demands an explanation from Guren, who admits he saved Yu because he has value. Yu asks if Guren can also save Mika, and Guren says they are all family, and they will work together to save him. Guren promises to teach Yu how to properly use his cursed gear. In Sanguinum, Mika is in pain and meets Farid. Farid suggests that Mika should drink a child's blood to stop aging. Mika reminds Farid of the city rules and tells him to let the child go. Farid invites Mika to a progenitor council meeting, and then he leaves Mika suffering on the street. At night, Yu, Shinoa, Kimazuki, and Mitsuba train their demon weapon affinity outside among abandoned buildings. Yu asks his demon Asurimaru to possess him, but only at a low level, as higher levels require blood. Yoichi, perched atop a lamppost, remains alert for danger. He detects 5 horsemen of John approaching and swiftly defeats them using his Gekuin powers. He explains that talking to his demon in his sleep enhances his abilities. As Yu trains, he instructs his sword to drink his blood, leading to a demon possession. He faints while the team stands guard. While Yu is unconscious, Kimazuki questions Shinoa about the Hiragi family's interrogation. Shinoa admits to manipulating Yu for his sister's safety. Kimazuki agrees to follow orders, even if he disagrees, but Yoichi wants honesty and promises to share what she knows with Yu later. In Yu's mind, he relives his past where his parents call him a monster and try to harm him. He sees the lifeless bodies of his orphanage family outside the apartment, and his father stabs him, calling him a coward. In Yu's mind, Asurimaru tries to break him with a painful memory of his past, but Yu remains determined to keep his promise and overcomes the illusion. He faces